do your, kind of let everybody know that this is being recorded or that the meeting has
I think we
adjourned?
just started.
Okay, okay,
Yes.
all right. Do I need to do the remote meeting? Like,
No.
oh, great, okay, sweet. Let's just move. All right. So is everybody okay with just jumping in? Does anyone have any updates or anything pressing that they feel they need to share before we get started, or any amendments to our agenda? Okay. So let's just jump in. So general updates. Tina, let's have you kick it off. You were going to let us know what you found out from the clerk's office and like where we're at, if we can meet in person or what, right?
Yes, I have not heard yet. So we did hear from our executive director, Andrea. She said that it looks like we will be pushing our in-person start date back to November 7th. Is that correct, Mary? I know it's November.
It's November 1st.
November 1st. Okay, thank you. And so she said that boards and commissions are still set for September, the end of September, but we are still waiting for the clerk to confirm that. So it might still be October. We can start meeting in person. So I will keep you posted as soon as I find out anything.
Okay. And I almost feel like this affects our access group more than anything because of the planning that they're advancing. So I feel like it would be really nice to just be able to update them as soon as possible. And another reason why it would be awesome if Mandy was here, but Tina, do you mind sending an email out to that group just saying that exec met, I mean, tomorrow, whenever, someday this week, just saying that executive met and we just touched on in-person meetings and they're suspended until October? As far
Yes.
as I know. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm on access.
Sorry, you're
too.
on access. Excuse me. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, Tina, you can send a note or I can send a note. We have a WhatsApp group that I can send a note to.
Jeff, I'm so sorry. I completely spaced that you're a big part of that group. Just a little
No problem.
Mandy's here. Yeah, that'd be great. And Mandy just arrived, so we'll let her in. So, okay, so we're putting planning on pause until October for in-person. And Jeff, yeah, if you advance that in your WhatsApp. Greetings, Mandy. Thanks for joining us. I guess I would also like to know who we have confirmed as a guest for this upcoming meeting so we can make sure our agenda reflects that, but we can talk about that when we get to access updates. Is that okay?
Okay. Either way.
Okay. Great. The second item is just that I will be gone for our next executive meeting. I am happy to work with you all to draft an agenda and be fully prepared. Or we can reschedule. I'm kind of open to whatever anybody thinks is helpful. If we reschedule, I think it would have to be for September 7th, Tuesday. Does anyone, are we able to even look at that right now, or do we want to table it? And
that's when I have it happening, is on the 7th.
You do?
Yeah, do I have, it's the first Tuesday, right? No, because
yeah.
It isn't the first Tuesday, but
it is.
It's Tuesday
for the 14th. And I think that's wrong. So it's just an error. Yeah, Tina, I think it's just an error. Great. I'm glad we talked about it. Tina, do you mind rescheduling the meeting that is on the 14th for the 7th for exec?
Yes, let me make a note because I have to go into LIMS and change the date. So yes, I will do that.
Was there a reason that I'm
just you know what? There might be a holiday and because there was some weird months where we had to really move the dates around.
Yeah.
I think there might be a city holiday why we couldn't do it the normal week. I believe there is a date. Let me confirm that.
But Monday's I'm pretty Labor Day. Does that make the difference? Even though we're meeting on Tuesday, does everything get shifted because of that?
It does, but I believe there is there might be a Jewish holiday in September, like that second week that we would have normally met. And so we had to, I think that there's something going on with
Rosh
that
Hashanah
date.
starts at sundown on the 6th. Yep. Okay. That's what it is then.
Um,
So it is on the 14th then, I guess we're saying, huh? Okay.
Yes, that's correct. I believe that was one of those months we had to move it around. So
which is kind of tough because then the general meeting is on the 15th. So that doesn't really match up.
right. Yeah, it was a goofy. I know one month we looked at maybe doing it on a Thursday before the following week. I'll have to look at those dates, Joan, because it was like,
I have that. I actually have Thursday the 9th. Now that I'm looking at my calendar from 5 to 6
okay.
for the executive committee meeting. And I will reply all right now to this calendar invite just so that it's on your radar. How's that sound? So Thursday, September 9th from 5 to 6 p.m. on Teams. And I think this happened quite a while ago because I see Lisa Middag and Ellie on there too. So, and let's see, Jeffrey, you are on there. Okay, I'm going to send that. Does that work for everybody? Then that would just solve for all of this. Thursday versus Tuesday is the change.
Yes.
Then you don't have to do anything, Tina, if it works. Does it work for you, Lana? I see Lucy nodding.
I'm still just confirming whether or not I'm in a class that starts that day. If it's the first class, then I would have a conflict. So I'm TBD for the 9th.
Okay.
But
Well,
that's okay. You know, permission
yeah,
to
yeah.
without me.
Yes, I'm sure I'll be bothering you either way. Okay. All right. Okay, so let's keep moving. Also too, there is a link here in the agenda for the webpage with the policies on the DSS accession process. I think that's just something that we want everybody to just do some due diligence around and skim it, please. I did not include it in our discussion today, although I'm happy to if somebody, Mary or Talia isn't here. But if you feel that it's important for us to discuss this, right? Do you have an opinion, Mary? Or is it more just an FYI?
I feel like I need to give you a quick update.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
So, so we're kind of in this strange situation where we haven't officially de-accessioned the Columbia Park Gateway, which is on Hennepin County property and is being sold to Opus for a new warehouse facility. But the terms of the city's lease agreement with Hennepin County is that when the lease expires, which it has expired, everything on the property becomes owned by Hennepin County. And so we de-accessioning it is sort of a moot point because we don't legally own it anyways. And so I'm going to bring this forward to the panel tomorrow, kind of as an informational thing, so that they understand the details of our agreements with the artists and everything, and so that they kind of experience de-accessioning without actually taking an action on it, because we haven't done it for a long time. So I think after tomorrow's panel meeting, if you're going, Joan, we should decide whether or not you want to put any of this on the full commission agenda. You know, there is some murky stuff going on and most of the artwork is getting destroyed. And so that might be something that the commission would be interested to know.
Okay. Mary, do you mind after tomorrow's meeting, just like sticking around for one extra minute to just make sure we're aligned with what we need, if anything we need to do for the MAC agenda?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Okay. Thank you, Mary, for that context. I will keep it moving. I can pull this up. Okay. All right. Any other general updates? for anybody? Okay. Moving on to our action learning team updates for executive. I just wanted to, again, and this, I believe that it is our responsibility ultimately to be sure that we're filling seats and that we're reaching a quorum as the executive committee. However, we are very well supported by our access and engagement ALT. So there's activity in interviewing potential candidates, seating candidates, and cultivating. So just to understand that kind of the roles and the responsibilities piece, and that so I just wanted to show everyone, and thank you, Tina, for helping to keep me on task with this, that we have 4 seats expiring in December. That's a big heavy hit, and so I think that we need to think about how are we going to, you know, sort of divvy up the you know, maybe the one-on-ones that we should do with each of these people, and understand if they wish to extend their seat for another term. I have some opinions about what I think people might likely say, but I just think it would be nice to delegate to our executive committee, if it's possible, to take on a one-on-one with each of these commissioners to just find out where they're at in their role as a commissioner, how they're feeling about this term ending, and if they want to renew, and if they don't, then just bringing it back to this committee. So that is an action step that I am asking. If you're not comfortable with that, totally okay. I mean, I'm happy to kind of take the hit if needed, but I just think it would be nice if it's all right with all of you to divvy it up. We don't have to do it before the next general meeting, but I thought maybe if we could make it a goal to do it before the next executive meeting, at least then we'd be like in a September place, and saying, okay, like there's 3 more vacancies coming, and what does that mean for us to discuss it, you know? So Jeff is coming back in. So any comments or questions about that? Are you all okay with me sort of like asking that favor of us to each take one as we feel comfortable to make a one-on-one to talk about extending the term or vacating the seat?
Yeah. Isn't Lisa like done though? Isn't her seat like?
You're right. She is. I think she's like, I think
That
she's
was my
lived out every
question.
term she can. Yeah, I think she's on her 9th year. Am I right, Mary? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, her term is expired, I think. Tina can confirm it.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
And she's the only one. The other ones could renew, right? If they wanted to. Okay, just wanted
So
to
there's
clarify.
Smith, Brinkman, and Silky Jones. We can either each take one of them right now and note it in the notes, or you can follow up with me later if you'd like to take that on. I can take
Another question. Do you have?
Go ahead.
Do you have an exit interview form already filled, like ready and templated to use, or no? Have we been interviewing people that have been leaving? So we would just have to go by the script that.
I feel like there is an exit interview, but I don't remember where it is, or if it's in, like, I don't remember if it's SharePointed or I'm pretty sure it's not Teams'd. So I think it's a matter of looking at SharePoint and trying to dig it up. It's been a little while, and I haven't led a lot of exit interview activity, so it's probably an opportunity that we might maybe even have missed in some cases. I think sometimes I've had one-on-one conversations with commissioners who are leaving, but not like with formal questions that are the same. So an exit interview is a good thing to locate. I'll take that on and look for it. I will take Commissioner Brinkman. I feel like, I don't know, unless Mandy, you feel more comfortable with Crystal. No, okay. I'm happy to have.
It doesn't matter. I was gonna offer her a Hava because I've been working with a Hava at her school. So.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So we can chat if you want me to take her. Either way, I'm good for one of whoever.
Well, I don't know, Lana. Well, maybe you take Crystal, Mandy. Lana, you take a Hava if you're willing, and I take David. How about that?
Okay.
Because Lana works with the Hava all the time too. And if you're comfortable taking Crystal, then I don't mind taking David.
Okay.
All right, thanks you guys.
Yeah,
So that's
absolutely.
Okay, so I'll try by Friday to have the exit interview questions, just not because I intend on you to give an exit interview to currently seated commissioners, but for Lisa to prepare. And if we do, find that people are wanting to leave, we will want, or not to extend their terms, we'll want to know why and be able to discuss that. Anything else about that?
It's Lucy. I would just say that if that doesn't work out for somebody, I would find it really interesting to talk to someone just as being a new commissioner, to learn from them. I don't know what's in the exit interview questions, but if it turns out that it doesn't work for somebody, I'm happy to be an alternate for anybody. I would find that really interesting. And if not this round, next time or whatever. So I'm happy to
I
help.
feel like if you wanted to interview Crystal, because she's been a commissioner for a while, she might be a good knowledge base for you. So and I work with her with ALT, so I'll chat with her separately. So if you wanted to take her, Lucy.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
That's awesome. Thank you. Okay, great. So we've got Lucy with Brinkman, Lana with Ahava, and me with David. Is that right? And we're just doing a brief one-on-one to check the temperature, and just see, and then we'll, come back. And obviously, if you feel compelled to encourage someone to stay on, I think there's value to that. But it's also whatever approach you feel comfortable, just finding out like where you at is really all I'm asking, if that makes sense.
And how soon do you want those done, Joan?
Before our next exec committee meeting. So a month.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Yes, I was just going to say, this is Tina. The applications, those vacancies are posted now, so people can apply for those positions. So if they are interested, we need to know so they can go ahead and apply now, so we know who's coming back and what we actually have to fill for the fall.
That's a great thing, because there is like there's a formality, and I think they can use their original application. Am I right? Like they just have to.
Yes, that's correct. They just need to reapply. Yes. And that's it. They don't need to interview or go through the whole approval with council and all of that. So
it's just a formal reapplication process.
Yes. And I was also going to suggest maybe that Lucy maybe meet with Lisa as well, since Lisa's been on for 9 years. That might be good too, as well.
Yeah, and I've actually met her in the planning world years ago. So we have colleagues in common. We did have colleagues in common when I was working. So yeah, so I mean, if you maybe since she can't renew, when it comes time to do an exit interview with her, that I'd be happy to be the person to do that part. So
that could be richly valuable.
Honestly. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I think so too. And it would be really fun, because if you do have a little bit of a connection to her yet, I mean, I know, like, I've worked with her really closely over these past few years on the commission. So I feel like, yeah, it's going to be a little bit of an emotional situation for me saying goodbye to her. So it would be nice to have, like, it'd be really nice to have your kind of level, just do your observations and sort of gather some information from her. I think she'd be really into that too. So
should I just wait to do that until you give me the exit interview stuff? And
yeah, I think, okay. I think that would be good. I think that once we know how many people might be leaving, hopefully she's the only one, but we don't know, right? So I think then our group needs to make a plan for implementing exit strategy interviews and stuff like that. So I think that'll be a little bit of a work plan.
Great. Okay.
Thanks for offering. That's great. Okay, moving on, we do have 5 current vacancies, as you can see, seats 1, 2, 4, 11, and 12. How are we doing right now, Tina, do we have applications? I know sometimes you forward those on and we can at times unintentionally miss them, but is there anybody waiting in the queue to be interviewed, or applications that we've received for those seats?
We did receive that one application. I think her name is Ellie, and I believe she had the listening impairment, and so we were kind of wondering about that one. So that's the only one we have so far.
And Mandy, didn't Mari say, like, let's interview her, even though she's
I
not
feel
from
like
a
we
community
both were
of color?
kind of like we should. Yeah, Well, we don't know that specifically.
Know that. We don't. Yep,
So,
yep.
but she is coming from a different diverse background in that she is deaf, right? She's
Mhm.
hearing impaired. Yeah, I thought she was, I couldn't remember. Yeah. So I feel like we were gonna interview her. It was that her application was a little light, like there wasn't a lot of specifics on her application, which is why we were hesitant. But yeah, we should definitely give her a try. I should say them. I don't know her pronouns.
Yeah, Tina, then I guess the action step would be for us to find a time to interview Ellie. So that we need to move on that.
Okay, I'll get something this week.
Yeah.
I'll work with her.
Yeah. Find out what times work for her for next week, I would say, or maybe even the following, and then we can find, it was just 30 minutes. But it is kind of like hurting the kitten's schedules. Everyone tends to be really good about it. Does that sound okay?
Yes, I will do that.
Any other comments, vacancies? And then I guess we can move into our, looks like policy updates is up next, or is it access updates? My agenda looks a little messy there. Any other questions about the vacancies and then the slate in general? Okay. I think up next is access updates, and I apologize that that isn't formatted great. But I do have Commissioner Bedbury for updates for the access team, but appreciate that Jeff is here too, and you guys are all working together. So.
Yeah, and I feel like Jeff might actually have more to say because I believe he was getting the guest for this month, and I was unable to make it to the meeting. In fact, I don't even know if we had our last meeting because I couldn't make it. So
Yeah,
I'll let.
I could. Yeah,
I'll
we
let
didn't
Jeff
have
fill us
we
in.
didn't have the last meeting, so you were at the last meeting. So,
Cool.
but I'll go. Yeah, we're planning to have Keno for the August meeting, and I just have to double. He said yes a couple of weeks ago. I need to just double check with him and just kind of prep him. But I owe Tina some information for him and for Christopher Aarons in terms of to get the $150 honorarium that we gave him. So I'll be all over that. I've been doing some traveling. I'm actually in Dallas right now, so but I'll be all over that to make sure that Keno is ready to go next week. And then September, I think we're still working through. Mandy, you could help me out. I think September we did not have somebody, and we were talking about all my relations for October, understanding that that'll probably be remote also potentially. We don't know yet.
Mm-hmm.
What weren't we looking at November? Now I'm confused. Which is Indigenous Peoples Month?
November.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's right.
So I think we were gonna maybe try to do.
Yeah, I apologize. I don't have my notes in front of me.
Yeah,
So yes,
yeah. No, that's okay. I don't take notes, so I'm even worse than you. But yes, I think that was our last update. Was that? Yep.
Yeah.
So we need to find somebody in September, right? So if anybody has any ideas, shoot them our way. Otherwise, we'll go from our list that we have in Google.
We have a really interesting group at Hennepin Theater Trust right now called Move for Justice News. They are a group of 7 photographers that have been documenting the unrest since Jamal Clark's passing, and have been at the front lines of all of the different police brutality protests throughout these past 4 or 5 years. And they have an exhibit up. Maybe that's a conflict of interest because they have a show up at Hennepin Theater Trust in our gallery and in our windows. But it's like this really incredible group of 7 artists that are really like amazing frontline journalists, and they just got their 501c3 designation yesterday. So they're a new like arts collective that's working in the community in a really unique way. So I guess maybe Access, if you want to follow up and let me know if you want me to invite them, if you have somebody else.
What's the name again, Joan?
Move for Justice News.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I'd be interested in because I don't think we have anybody yet. So yes, I mean, I think that'd be great.
Could be interesting, just because they've been around for a long time, but they're a new nonprofit, and
Yeah.
now we're sort of saying like we are a news journalism nonprofit, photography nonprofit. So
That's great.
Mhm.
What about also diving into some of the newer artists that receive the Creative Response Fund? I'm not sure, since their stuff is, some of them are trying to put it up before the end of the year. So we can access that list, Jeff, and maybe see if any of them want to come for the rest if they can't.
That would be very aligned, right? That would make a lot of sense that we would know those folks and support them.
Got it.
Okay. Any other updates for the access group? And is this, we'll do updates too in our general meeting agenda as we have been, kind of in the same format, but is there anything else that do you need support with anything?
No, not off the top of my head.
I
Okay.
put
Yeah, I
something
think
in the
we're good.
chat from our minutes from July, so I don't know if you guys want to look at that.
Oh, nice.
Our note taker, Tina.
There. That's great. Okay.
Yeah.
Do we want to move on to policy updates? All right, Commissioner Aylesworth, take it away. You did a really good job creating a lot of notes for this agenda, but if you don't mind giving us an overview about the activity, that'd be great.
Sure thing. Yeah, we were just working together to kind of just draft a policy moving forward for consent agenda items to be moved to discussion. So Joan was very kind to put in, our ABCDE right in our agenda of what we discussed. Really, the overall idea is just creating some sort of streamlined process that will be followed, an opportunity to get some more advance notice if there's anything that people want to see more discussion on. And then also, starting a conversation about why we use a consent agenda, and also, being open to having more presentations about what we are consenting on each time around. So, Mary was very forthcoming with offering her time if we have any questions on documents that have been received before. But I think going forward, we will just ask to get packet information earlier, so that we can do more due diligence as commissioners to review that ahead of time, thereby giving us more time if we have anything that we need to discuss, and then making it a blanket overview that we will always hear some information about anything that we have for our consent agenda items. So that's what those points are in brief. 48 hours ahead of time to prepare and discuss without delays if anything is going to get pulled. So that wouldn't sneak up on any one-on-one meetings, and would allow us time to also reach out to artists as needed, with the hope being that, that due diligence beforehand would prevent that necessity, because we would have already had the conversation before it appears. So that was the, main news stroke that we were working on from our last time around. In addition, there'll be all the many transitions with the new department that we'll be able to engage with and talk on. And I understand Golgun is on the line here with us tonight too. So is this the point in the conversation where we'll get an update there?
I believe so, yeah.
Right.
Sorry, that was my cat, not me, meowing in the background. Do you want me to talk a little bit about the agenda item I was proposing, or is this a good time? Okay. I think I'm going to let him outside because it's really loud. Yes, so the agenda item I wanted to discuss, and it's not necessarily me advocating for the next MAC meeting. This is more a sort of heads up about how does the MAC executive committee want to handle the next stage in the new department. What kinds of information would be helpful to you, so I can come prepared and put it on the calendar, and you guys can also put it on the various agendas. So that's really why I raised this issue. So really going back a little bit, I did a presentation to the Policy and Government Oversight Committee on financing the new department. And if anyone listened to it, one of our top recommendations was fund this department going through the normal general funding process. And we had already submitted a request to the mayor to fund the department. So that's already happened. There are a number of moving parts involved. One of them is that we will receive the mayor's, it will become public what the mayor's funding decisions are this Friday. And right after that, really starting in September, the departments will then make presentations to council on the budgets. So there'll be public presentations. And then from September all the way through to November, council will start to make decisions around whether they're going to approve the mayor's proposal or make adjustments to it. So that's the sort of normal budget process, and we're proposing that the department go through that process. And as yet, I do not know at what level the mayor has decided to support or not support this department. In terms of, I guess my first question is, does MAC want to track this process? Would you like a presentation on the process so membership or maybe the policy committee can understand what it involves? And then at some point, MAC may or may not want to get involved. In the past, you all have written letters to council during budget processes. It's really up to you all what the next steps are. But in order to be prepared for them, I think it would be best to understand the process. There are a number of other moving pieces, but I didn't want to confuse you right now.
I mean, I kind of look to Lana for some guidance too, but I feel like a brief presentation could be really nice, being that there's so much action happening. You will have answers about budget, and then, of course, whatever the consequences are for that for next steps, hopefully that you can update us. I guess I don't when I say brief overview, I don't mean to diminish the importance of this. I just want to be cognizant that we have a 15-minute time slot for our guest. We have a really dense agenda, but clearly this is really important, and it's something that we've worked on for months and months now. So we want to have a good update and feel like we understand the process and what's happening. So what does the rest of the group feel about having for our agenda for our general meeting, having Kino be the first guest to have his 15 minutes, and then having Gulgoon go with just a brief presentation about the current status of funding the department and next steps? Does that sound?
Could I make a note there, Joan?
Sure.
So this next week I'm out, so I won't be able to do the presentation this next week. The purpose of my coming to this meeting is because I'm out next week.
I see.
So,
Okay.
and I know that there's the funky schedule coming up, and it feels like it's going to be a lot of time before the next executive, let alone the next MAC meeting. So, you know, I'm trying to find a way to ease people into understanding what, you know, how the budget works, and also, you know, make sure that things aren't a surprise to you all. I think there's still time if the presentation happens in September, because in September is when the departments will be presenting anyway to council. I think there's still time for MAC to learn about the process. It's just, yeah, it's just, you know, timing is going to be important.
Could you bring your presentation to the next policy ALT meeting? Would that be a possibility?
When is that?
August 25th. So
Oh, yeah.
August 25th.
Yeah,
at
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. That would be great, because then we could have policy ALT kind of drive the process and inform the rest of the commission on dates. I mean, the dates and all the other steps are actually public, so you can view them, but there might be some nuances that policy ALT may want to investigate, and, you know, I'm happy to do that in terms of how it relates to the new department, like how much have we asked for, and what is the, you know, obviously we'll know by then what the mayor has decided to fund, and then there's these other additional funds were related to the American Rescue Plan as well, and other types of steps that we've recommended to council.
Surely. Yeah, I think the policy ALT would be the right time to, brief it a little bit more high level, because we'll be facilitating, a lot of the letters that would go forward. But of course, we'd always welcome your brief update too in September.
Sure. I think that's a great idea.
The invite over to you. I've been in conversation too with emails with Danielle to try to set up like a one-on-one, just so that we're keeping communication lines open too. So I know she's not available on the 25th, but if you happen to, the meeting is at 5, would that work for you, Golgoon?
Yes, it will. And that was my concern, is Danielle might not be available, and I'm gone. So I just want to make sure you are all tracking.
Sure. A lot of balls moving in the air, but I'm certainly happy to connect with both of you individually as your schedule allows.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's great. Appreciate that. Anything else? Any questions or comments for policy updates or feedback? Okay, thanks for working that out. The next item then I guess would be the Poet Laureate group, which is Lana, Ahava, and Mandy so far. Am I right?
Yep, that's right. So I sent out an email to commissioners just as a reminder. We had mentioned it at our last full meeting, if anybody wanted to throw their hat in the ring. And then we had myself and Ahava sign up right away. And then Mandy graciously offered to join the fold. So we're up to 3. We would certainly welcome, one more voice in the room if anybody has interest in the literary arts. The idea of the working group is going to be to compile some information, maybe to do a little research on what other cities do before we meet with Councilmember Fletcher and Councilmember Jenkins, so that we can, then just forge a bit of a plan before we take their time. So I'd like to have one hour meeting sometime between now and our next full commission meeting, so that then we can reach out right away to council members and say that wheels are turning, we've got a few voices in the room, and here's what we've done so far to call them in on next steps. Anybody else? Any other takers? Anyone who says poetry, it's my bent in life, I would love to be on that working group, or just sure I'll,
May I make a suggestion?
I have a question.
Jeff, do you want to go first? I see your hand. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I had a question. Does the 4th person need to be a commission member, or could it be outside the commission? Because I know Black Table Arts had expressed interest, but I don't know if this is the right time or is it later in the process. So I'm good either way, but I was going to email you that question.
Yeah,
I'm not interested, but maybe they could be. So just a quick question.
I anticipate that the working group will grow after we have those initial conversations with council members, but I would love it to be, at least 4 from our side of the table to, split up the work and get the ball rolling. Certainly, we would always welcome Kino's voice at the table when we expand beyond. Yeah.
Makes sense. I just wanted to check. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll make a note to loop you in on that too, because that would really be great to hear from Kino as well. Golgoon, did you have a comment?
Yes, so this issue has come up in the past, off and on, by different mayors, council members. And I know in Mayor Hodges' time, we were very close to getting some sort of program started. And so I had to do some research, and I recommend looking at Philadelphia's program.
Thank you.
It's a poet laureate mentorship mentee relationship with an emerging poet and an established poet. So anything that can promote growth and development of young up and coming talent is where we were trying to head towards.
That's a great suggestion. Thank you. Great. Lucy.
Hey, Lana. This is Mary.
Hi.
Can you remind me of when you told me that, or told them you would meet with them by?
We told them that we would reach out after our next exec meeting. So the exec meeting is to discuss, which commissioners want to throw their hat in the ring. All right, after this meeting, my plan would be to email everyone who says, yes, it's me, and set a time for the next week or so, and we can meet and talk general ideas before we reach out to council members, probably next week, and say, we'd love to get some of your time to talk as a group.
Great, thank you.
Lucy, have a hand?
Yeah, I think I made a note I don't know if we talked about this last week and it was a note, maybe Mary said, why don't you put it on the ask at executive committee, but do we know who would staff this working group?
It's a good question. I don't have any information that there would be staff for it. I think you're looking at it.
So, okay, so that means we would be in charge of all the research and writing any, white paper or recommendation, or what is the council member staff role in that?
That's a good question. I would assume that we would have more support once we loop in council members just for the initial working group. Like I'm happy to, play secretary and keep notes on that process, but certainly they mentioned the Loft Literary Arts Center and several other people who they would like to see at the table in, after we're beginning conversation. Okay. So I can't imagine that we would be left to staffing the entire enterprise, but like from Mac's perspective, we will be helming it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure. Mary, do you have any other information? Do you know of staff working in the wings that would
I don't think there's staff, but I do think that it would probably be best to work with Tina to schedule the meeting with the council members. She might be able to work with their aides and make that happen for you. And Tina, I'm sorry, I'm volunteering you for something.
Oh, no, that's fine, Mary. I have access to all the calendars. So yeah, just let me know what you guys need and what you need me to do.
And I was going to say too, Lana, that I question if Fletcher or Jenkins aides might even take a proactive role, being that it is something that they wish to be in a leadership position about. They may, be in a source of support. There's also Sean Pierce, who I don't know what her status is right now, but she may be interested in this too. So we might just end up looking at vetting a point person at the city.
I hope there'll be a lot of interest.
Right.
Sean has left the city.
Okay.
And I believe her job was recently posted. I don't think it's been filled yet, but I don't know for sure.
I wondered, I haven't heard anything for such a long time, but that wasn't unusual either. But okay.
Thanks for that update, Mary.
Yeah, it's good to know. All right.
Lucy, you have that new hand? Do you have a new hand up?
No, I don't. Sorry. I'll lower my hand.
That was me.
Did I lower?
Is
it lower? Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Did you have something else to add?
Yeah, well, I was just going to say that Sean has left the city as well. Mary said it already.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Lana, for leading that, and for everyone that's offering to participate. I think that's really above and beyond. So it's and also very exciting. And Jeff, I love that it's a kind of a source of potential interest for Keno to maybe see if he wants to join us to be a part of that leadership piece. Could be cool. Anything else then from policy for updates?
I did just have one more update / question to throw out to the group. So I had sent out general thank yous to council members after the passing of the creation for the new arts department. And one thing that Jeremy Schrader came back with was just a general question if we had any knowledge of low carbon / indigenous building materials being used in art projects. Just something that they're considering, from an environmental perspective, and was, looking for some knowledge share if we had any ideas. And I said I'd throw it out at exec tonight just to see if anyone had information, but I thought I might also reach out to new commissioner. Jack Mobius had mentioned that one of his interests, was kind of blending arts and environmental and economic justice. So I thought perhaps he might know something about building materials as well. So I was just going to throw that out to other commissioners and send an email, but if anyone has extensive knowledge on building materials to share with me, please do so now or via email after we meet tonight. Anybody building materials, indigenous?
I don't, but I question if Rory Wakeup might know a little something, and if you want any introduction to him, I could give you one. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah, I'd welcome that introduction. Would be happy to follow up. So thanks.
Okay.
thank yous always spark additional questions, and I think it's always extra learning moments for us too to be, knowledgeable about the crossover.
You bring up a good point. I'm sorry to be tangential, but with Jack's coming on too, like I definitely intend to reach out to him to provide like a one-on-one with him to allow him an opportunity to ask questions, much like I did with Lucy. But is there any other, and I apologize, this isn't on the agenda, but any other onboarding considerations for Jack as he comes on now? Past that, Tina, I didn't know if you had materials you wish to send him, or I think at some point, well, when we have the time, which is kind of a joke, but when we have the time, we might want to look at our onboarding process too, and just make sure that people are getting good updated materials and that we have kind of a path for onboarding. But Tina, sorry, go ahead. Do you have something to say?
Sure. I was going to say I did mail him a binder about 2 weeks ago with all of the information, and then emailed him an updated phone list with all the emails. So he should have received that. So if you want to, when you check in with them, make sure. Then I emailed him today about a bio and a headshot or a picture.
Thank you.
And copied Ahaba, because I know she's keeping track of that as well. So
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you so much. And then Jack, for me, just schedule that. Okay, sorry. Thanks for the tangential aside. Okay, so moving on to public art, I apologize that I don't have a lot to say. Our meeting, our monthly meeting is tomorrow. So hopefully when we get to our general MAC meeting, either I can delegate to David or Mari to provide those updates for the general meeting. I don't know, Mary, do you have anything that's special that you want to add? I don't know if are there consent agenda items then for the general meeting?
Well, I think the only thing would be is if for the general meeting you want to forward the Columbia Park Gateway information, or have us do a short presentation. I think for the city council, I'm going to do something called a receive and file, which basically means that a report gets attached to the council agenda. And so I could do that for MAC too. I could kind of write a memo about what's happening with the Columbia Park Gateway, and it could be just a receive and file. Because you can't take any action because legally it's already been de-accessed, right? So, but I mean, normally we would bring this before you for a recommendation, but we can't. So, so we can decide that tomorrow, Joe.
All right, and then again, we'll just want to make sure that the MAC agenda is aligned with whatever we decide to do for that. But okay, that sounds good. Okay, any new business that we want to add to the agenda? I did add Black Table Arts and Kino at the top of our discussion. It looks like we're going to be able to strike consent agenda items for this coming month, which is cool. I will just give you this. I wonder if, I kind of think it would be valuable for us to walk through the consent changes. Do we want to get that buttoned up tight and formally adopt it next week, or do we want to just kind of say this is the way it's going to be? And I mean, what do you think? Like, what kind of formality do we need? I don't know, Mary, do you have any insight about that? You guys have worked out a lot of really great detail about like how we want the process to work. Does it need a formal motion to adopt this as our consent agenda policy?
I'm wondering. I hadn't thought about that. I think. I mean, I'd be interested to hear what the policy group thinks. I think it might be a good exercise for you to go through, because I think you need buy-in on the approach, right? Mm-hmm. And so to just say this is the way we're going to do it might not get as much buy-in as if you actually had the whole group approve it, right? And they could have discussion. So But I don't know. I'd be interested to hear what the policy committee members think.
I certainly welcome, buy-in from all commissioners. One item that's still outstanding would be the question and criteria that we would, decide whether or not items got a fuller presentation versus a brief overview. And that would be one thing that we would really appreciate, not to speak for the group, but I would appreciate some guidance and some opinions from our fellow commissioners if they have specific questions that they would like to see reflected on that criteria. And because we haven't, fleshed that portion of it out, it didn't seem like this is it and this is everything is buttoned up and done. It was more an update on where we are in the process so far. And perhaps we can take that process of where we're at to the commission and then say, we really welcome your feedback. If you have questions that you would like to see, we pose for every work of public art. And then when we have like a formal list of the criteria, I'd feel more comfortable on a vote or a formal motion, if you will.
I like that idea.
Down to
I think it's kind of what I like about this is that we socialize the process, through the next meeting via discussion and kind of detailing these are the changes we are suggesting that we make and actually adopt as a more well-defined process. We want your feedback about what the criteria and the line of questioning would be for us to consider what will go on consent in the first place versus what we will move to discussion. So I think maybe that's just a place of engagement, right? Like on top of saying like, let's have a discussion, talk about like, here's the changes we're proposing. We have an action item for you and you need to submit whatever you think is important to the policy group. And then next month, we're going to come back with whatever anybody suggested and we're going to try to adopt a more formal process for consent. Does that seem like the right cadence of events? Lucy, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I was just going to say, yes, I agree with what all of you have said. I do think the full commission we should walk through it and get additional feedback. And I agree with what Lana said as well. We do have this question of what would some of the criteria be? And it's not that we'd have to figure them out next week, but we could get other commissioners outside of the committee maybe starting to talk about it and give us feedback for our next executive committee meeting. So I just think something like this is pretty important for people to understand and get buy-in. I agree with Mary that that's the way to do it, is to actually walk through it and say, this is what we've come up with. What do you think? Do you have other ideas? And then how about the criteria? So yeah, I think we should flesh it out for the rest of the commission.
It's kind of a neat exercise for us as we start moving towards creating and changing some of the policies and procedures and things like that. So this is nice. I mean, we're kind of creating a process where there really wasn't a clear one. And I really appreciate the thought that's gone into that. But it's also, this is just a cool way for us to dip our toes in how to socialize a change, and have engagement and have input and then make it formal. Yeah. Okay, great. That sounds like good. That sounds good to me. If it sounds good to everybody else, it seems as if I'm seeing some nods. Okay, great. All right. So with that, unless there's anything else that anybody has, I think we are good to go. I think what I will do is I will update the agenda and maybe just kind of simplify it just a little bit so it doesn't look so overwhelmingly dense. But and then we're going to table Gulgoon's presentation about next steps and budget considerations and all that kind of stuff for the policy ALT meeting, and then we can pick it up at exec and decide how that looks for the September MAC meeting. Does that sound okay? And then as far as like action items are concerned, I will find the exit interview that we have used in the past. I will do a one-on-one I will set up a one-on-one with Jack for onboarding purposes. We have let's see, sorry, my notes. We have Lucy reaching out to Crystal to check the temperature about whether or not she's going to renew her term. Is that right? And we have Lana reaching out to Ahava to find out whether or not she's going to renew her term. We have Jeff just checking in with Keno, making sure he has everything he needs. Including a W-9, I think, for us to be able to submit for his honorarium. and Jeff also reaching out to Christopher Aaron to make sure that we have their information to be able to submit for their honorarium as well.
Yep.
And then we have the DX session conversation. We're going to have post the public art advisory council meeting and decide how that looks on our agenda as well. So did I cover my bases? Did I miss anything? Tina has a pretty significant action item list too that I am hoping you captured those now. I think I don't want to assume or take for granted.
Yes, I'm good. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. With that, I think we can adjourn. Is everybody good? Okay. Awesome. Have a lovely Tuesday
Yes.
evening.
Thank you.
You too. Bye,
Thanks.
everyone.
Bye.